I'm not sure what's on the screen right now.
It says this meeting is being recorded. It's nothing.
Okay.
It's just continue. So no, it's not political at all. I'm not interested in anything political unless it's Vaishnava culture as a political party. Not the Green New Deal, nothing to do with liberal politics or conservative politics.
Okay, but that would gather more people involved, and more funds would be involved to to have that solution that you're looking for.
But the solution I'm looking for is to establish Vaishnava culture based on these 4 items: soul, austerity, agrarian economy, and celebration of Leela Nama.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. I think you should. I don't want to shoot on you, but I would recommend that you go to Moilamba. It's fantastic. You would see it in action, what you're proposing. You'd be inspired by it. You might
Yeah.
want to move there, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure the Australian government would take us Americans. But it's worth a try. It's worth a 3-week visit, 3-month visit at least.
Yeah.
And Ajita he would have a lot to share. You'd be inspired by his community. It's in action. What you're saying is in action there.
Acyutananda Prabhu.
I want to, but what I'm saying is not just agrarian. It's city-based. It starts from the city. That's where everyone is. And the main focus that I'm presenting is Harinam and festivals. It's big Sankirtan activity. I mean, nowadays Sankirtan has the context of book distribution, but I see Sankirtan as all kinds of glorification of Vishnu and Krishna, including Harinam and festivals. To me, Rath Yatras, I mean, I think big cities have to have a lot of Rath Yatras. I'm basing this on a letter that I was really moved by that Aniruddha received in 1968 in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
Prabhupada he went to this big cathedral. I think it was in Montreal, and it was a big cathedral with the Stations of Christ. You know how the Catholics, they celebrate, especially they have festivals and they celebrate the different, I think 7 Stations of Christ. Anyway, Prabhupada said, he wrote to Aniruddha, he said, we can have unlimited festivals in unlimited cities throughout the world. And then that was in 68. And then in 69, he told Tamal and Vishnu John in Los Angeles to do monthly festivals. So we had the butter churning festival. We had we had that festival that they have during Rath Yatra, where they have a big pond and there's a Krishna rides a boat.
A boat, yeah.
With Radharani. So Prabhupada
Mhm.
wanted, he suggested doing that festival. So Leela festivals, and in Mayapur, they have like a huge kurma when a big festival comes, even Vishnu Leela festivals that I've seen them celebrated in Mayapur. And Prabhupada said he wanted to go to England when George Harrison was first getting attracted, and when maybe even before the first British Rath Yatra, he said, let's, on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day, we'll have a big Chaitanya festival and we can walk through the streets with George. He wanted to walk through the streets and have a big Lord Chaitanya festival. In Berkeley, they built a huge statue of Lord Chaitanya. I don't know, maybe 20 feet high or something. Maybe you've seen that.
Yeah.
And that was carried on in a Chaitanya festival. So the festival theme was there. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, the book distribution became so huge that that more emphasis was placed on that, and we sort of forgot about the festivals. But now that book distribution has declined so much, I think it would be a good idea to revive the festivals, and that would be a fantastic way to attract, to recruit people, and then we can train them in turn to become book distributors. And
May I make a suggestion?
yes, sir.
Instead of changing the whole world all at one time, start small. Talk to Mukia. Are you in Alachua now, you said?
Yeah, I'm not in Alachua. I'm nearby in
Nearby.
Florida.
But, she's a nice person, and I would, propose these ideas. You're there, start with Alachua.
Who's
And then
Mukia?
I believe she's still the temple president in Alachua.
Yeah.
I see. Mhm.
Very nice lady. She's organized and she's got that community together.
Mhm.
So start with the head of that community, because every temple, as Prabhupada wanted, is individualistic. It's autonomous. So start small, and then the other devotees will see that that's working there. If things are flourishing there, and you got more devotees there than anywhere else. You have, I would think, a receptive, intelligent lady who's the head of the community. And these are fantastic ideas, and get it off the ground. Start there. Start one temple at a time.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I've been working on it. I mean, I'm now good friends with Guru Prasad Swami,
Uh-huh.
and he likes my ideas very much. And I'm old friends with Kalakanta, and I have an appointment with him. We're
Well,
gonna,
he's in Gainesville, right?
exactly.
Yeah. So I would get into Mukia through Kalakanta if they have a good relationship. Start there. Do your Sankirtan small. And
Yeah.
it's all who you know. So if you know Kalakanta, you got a lot going for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know a bunch of people. Mostly they have to be over 65, and then I know them.
Right. Join the club.
Dayananda Prabhu, I'd like to ask something.
Yes.
Prabhupada said that every Sankirtan devotee has his or her own genius of distributing books. So in terms of this environmental concept that you're saying, what are your ideas actually to expand the Sankirtan movement? Because you were saying that the book distribution is declining, but when we have all these programs with Vaisheshika Prabhu, there's often all different types of campaigns, and it seemed to be that the record is very high. Like last year with the Bhadra Purnima, they scored 24,000 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam globally. And this year they have also set a goal to 25,000 Bhagavatam sets. Like this, the Bhagavad Gitas were distributed last year during the December marathon. 2.17 million Bhagavad Gitas were distributed. So I just wanted to understand on your environmental concept, what are your ideas for Sankirtan, expanding the book distribution? I'd like to hear that.
Well, first of all, you said that every devotee has his or her own genius, and I think that's absolutely a wonderful thing that you just said, because you started by saying, well, Prabhupada said, and I thought, oh, here's another Prabhupada said. But I know that Prabhupada said that, maybe not exactly in those words, or maybe exactly in those words, but my experience is that Prabhupada was very much in favor of the concept of Dadami Buddhi Yogang Tang. Dadami Buddhi Yogang Tang, that Krishna gives the intelligence. So yes, I really like that concept. As far as saying that book distribution has declined, I don't mean it's declining. I didn't mean to say that, because it seems that book distribution is coming up actually. But I'm talking about North America, where maybe in the 70s, I don't know, I'm talking about approximate numbers, that in the 70s, maybe the devotees were making $1 or $2 million, or BBT was maybe getting $1 or $2 million in North America or the United States. And now, after 50 years, the BBT is getting maybe $2 to $5 million. Well, in the world of business, $2 to $5 million is not very much money, and it saddens me that we should, after 50 years, our income to the BBT, a reasonable income in book distribution, if in fact we're focusing on book distribution, should be probably between 80 to 100 million. So that's the way I judge it. I know that internationally there's a lot going on. I know that India is huge with book distribution. And I'm just talking about North America, which is the richest country in the world. And if we can only make as much our BBT in the United States, and believe me, I'm not trying to criticize here. I'm not criticizing. I'm just as much at fault as anyone else. I mean, I'm a nothing devotee, and here are all these other wonderful devotees who are doing stuff. All I'm saying is, from an external business perspective, we can do a lot better. We make maybe $2 to $5 million. I don't know, actually. It's hard to, they don't release those numbers so easily, but we make about as much as one McDonald's hamburger place, a successful one, or maybe two McDonald's, successful one. So I think our goal should be to make $80 to $100 million in North America. I'm talking about North America. And I have ideas how we might be able to do things like that, but we'll see. So, but I don't mean to insult anyone. Sir, I don't mean to insult any book distributors, certainly. I mean, they're just wonderful people, wonderful devotees. Are we supposed to finish? Gora, I haven't heard anything from Gora.
Nobody has asked, so I didn't want to spoil the party.
Well, I was waiting to be cut off. I see that it's like overtime or something.
Right. Well, we can terminate it anytime you like.
I'm fine. I don't know what people.
If I may, I wrote something in the chat because it was just my thoughts. Maybe it's relevant to, I don't know.
There's like 25 comments here.
Oh, it's on the bottom, but I could read it.
Go ahead, Tom, please.
Dayananda Prabhu, if I understand you right, I believe you are against construing Krishna consciousness as a privatized religion where one has salvation and it all stops there, whereas the real goal of Krishna consciousness is service that never ends. And that must include the environment as an essential aspect, which those who have the knack for that department need to give their all once converted to the cause. I don't think we should deny the individual, but give the individual the empowerment to surpass his own subjectivity. These are just my 2 cents. Sorry, both. I don't know if that helps. That was just on my mind. I don't know.
Okay, I understand you're against construing Christian consciousness that privatized where one has salvation. It all stops there. The service that never ends, yes. Includes the environment as an essential aspect. Well, you say that includes the environment as an essential aspect. I think what I'm trying to say about the environment is I believe, and this may sound a little cynical actually, but it's not. I don't mean for it to be cynical, but I see the environment as a hook, as an all-important hook to to bring new recruits, new devotees into Krishna consciousness, to energize the movement and to reestablish a dynamic Sankirtan with Harinam, with big festivals, and with agricultural projects. So that's where I see the
Okay.
environmental approach.
So it's
that-
kind of like a spoke on the wheel.
I don't think we should deny the individual, but give the individual empowerment. Yes, of course. We have to empower the individuals, but at the same time, individuals should be trained in Krishna consciousness based on Guru Sadhu Shastra. You know those three terms?
Yes, I've heard of them, yes. So if I understand you correctly, like the environment, like if Krishna consciousness, the whole enterprise is like a wheel, and if just one of the spokes is missing, then the wheel is kind of incomplete, or I don't know. It's just an analogy that I had running around in my head. I don't know if that helps. But.
I don't know which is the wheel and which are the spokes.
Well, I mean, like the environment is like one of the spokes, but without it, the wheel is incomplete. That's what I had in my mind.
No, the environment is not a spoke. It's not like focusing on the environment is going to it's not one of our basic principles of Krishna consciousness. It's that if we establish the basic principles of Krishna consciousness, then environmental issues will be solved. We're living within an environment. The material world is our environment. And if we establish a Krishna conscious society, then that will at least in part improve our external environment. So my proposal is that, just like Siddhanta Prabhu mentioned, that if we become Krishna conscious, then that will solve our environmental issues. But what I was saying to Siddhanta was that, yes, but rather than saying it as an individual thing,
it's all an individual whole.
Let's introduce this as a societal or cultural thing. If we can introduce some essential items from Vaishnava culture to Western culture, that will address environmental issues. I'm not saying that we should directly address environmental issues and try to solve them like watering leaves on the tree.
Dayananda Prabhu, could you say something about the joy of austerity?
The joy of austerity, the way I present the joy of austerity is just sort of two simple ways. One is that that by having renunciants like brahmacharis and sannyasis, brahmacharinis, within the society, there is a focus on austerity and on detachment, on renunciation. So that creates a subtle influence in the entire culture. That respect for the sadhu creates this subtle influence that, well, maybe materialism is not exactly the right way to go. So a family may find itself to be somewhat materialistic, but still, because there are examples of non-materialism or detachment, austerity, that's respected in society, and we don't have that in the Western society or modern global culture. There's really, what we have is greed, and if we can get a lot of money, that's what's respected.
Yeah.
So and when these brahmacharis are being trained, there's a there's a verse, a very important verse about tapasya. I don't remember the entire verse, but it's from King
Tapas-
Rishabh.
Tapasa brahmacharyena, that one, or no? Nayam
No.
dehu deha niraloke.
No, maybe that's it. But it's by King Rishabdev,
Yes.
and it's at the beginning. I think it's at the beginning of his teachings to his sons.
Brahma sokyam tvanantam.
Brahma Sokyam. Yes. So he says that tapasya is Brahma Sokyam. It's the highest enjoyment. Brahma, of course, means spiritual. It's spiritual Sokyam, spiritual enjoyment. Sukhi, Sukha means enjoyment. So the joy, so that is joy of austerity. And then when the brahmacharis learn, when they go to school, they learn some austerity. And even Krishna's guru sent him into the forest to collect firewood, and it's a sweet story. But Krishna also was undergoing austerity when he was under the guidance of his guru. So this idea of austerity, and you can't have austerity without, there has to be some satisfaction that you get from it. There has to be some incentive, there is enjoyment in the austerity. And Prabhupada taught us that a structure is important. You have structure in a temple. But if devotees are not feeling affection when they're doing their austerity, it has to be based on affection. It has to be based on joy. So that's joy of austerity. A little too long, but.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, it's Sukla again. Just one thing, going back to the farming communities and things, it's been really interesting with COVID here. Now people are moving out of the cities massively. It's almost impossible to buy land under 1.5 million anywhere at the moment, because many people are starting this new idea of moving onto the land, working from home, and developing a bit more of an agricultural organic lifestyle. It's become quite interesting. Another thing that they're setting up here, which there's a couple of places, it's called Farm and Co, and it's basically a Western restaurant, but it's not really. But so what they do, they have land, and they've cultivated sunflowers and all sorts of things for people to come. You can pick your sunflowers, you can go and have a look about how to grow things, and then there's a restaurant that goes with it, and then there's a shop that goes with it. But it is packed on the weekend, and it's just sort of getting people interested in how to learn to live off the land, about environment. And mostly it's all vegan restaurants and things like that, but it's actually it's a great idea, and it's packed with people coming just to be seen, to go there and be hip, and that whole look. But it's becoming really huge in Australia. There's so many restaurants, all vegetarian, vegans, like everyone's sort of jumping on that bandwagon, of course. But this whole idea of sort of learning to live off the land's becoming a really big thing over here. Interestingly enough, it's just anyway, that's just my little 2 cents. Haribol.
Yes, in the United States, there's, and I don't know to what degree, but there are sort of young, fairly well-to-do people who are moving to rural areas and starting their kind of what in the old days would be called gentleman farms. I don't know.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
they can work remotely and make a good amount of money, and but they have their land, their acreage.
Mm. It's interesting.
Prabhu, I need to leave. I have austerity to do. I have to finish my rounds. But it's been great seeing you and talking with you. And good luck with Mukhya.
Equally.
Asi.
Yes.
All right. Stay in touch.
Yes.
Yes.
Haribo, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Haribol, Jai.
Haribo.
Thank you.
Night night. I have to go
guess-
too, because it's Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day here. So because we're a day ahead down here. So I'm on the way to the temple. So, all glories.
All
Great to
glories
see
to
you.
Prabhupada.
All
Thank
glories to
you.
Prabhupada.
Nice
Hari
to
Hari
see
Bol.
you too.
Okay, Jai. Hare Krishna. If I can help anyway, let me know. Hari Bol.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Shukla. Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Hari Bol.
I guess we should finish up, huh, Gora?
I'm just going to check with everyone. I know Nitya Radha, she usually gets into the deepest question right at the very end of the evening.
Oh,
But I'm just
anybody? Yeah, anyone has anything, please?
I'm just wondering if anyone has any final. I'll just say a little. I'll just run my mouth for a second.
Good.
This is what I've been wanting to say at our Toronto temple for the last 10 years, but I've not been invited. So I'll say it to you instead. And you've probably heard it a million times before. In 1977, Srila Prabhupada was with Rameshwar in the Bhubaneswara area. And he said some very profound things. Of course, Prabhupada always says profound things, but these things really hit me. And that is, Prabhupada said, these cities will not last much longer because their economy is not based upon the local production of food. As unemployment continues to increase, in brackets, over 40 million since COVID hit, people will be coming to our farms by the millions. And so that's just blowing me away. It's like, where are these farms? And even if we had them, can we even relate to one another in a kind? Can we agree to disagree with one another? Even as Vaishnavas or aspiring Vaishnavas, can we even be empathic to one another? What to speak of receiving millions of people who are obviously not all going to be chanting Hare Krishna. I mean, it's just like, it's beyond my pay grade. It's beyond my scope, my adhikar, to even understand how to implement. So those are just a few thoughts I had. If you want to address that, you can. If not, if anyone else wants to speak, fine.
Well, my position is, I sort of fancy myself as a Sankirtan person. And my position is that I believe that we need to recruit a lot of young people and sacrifice them into the fire of Sankirtan. If we do that, we'll get our farms.
Then I hear a godbrother, and I won't say any particular godbrother, but a godbrother saying, well, what happens when they want to take initiation? Because as soon as you bring the Guru Tattva issue into the picture, it changes things, doesn't it?
That's really another topic, I think. I mean,
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
want to get too heavily into
Fine.
that, but for me, I don't know how I can say this without. I don't know what I'm a pragmatist. Whatever works.
Uh-huh.
So I'm very dedicated to this idea, and however, that's a little blasphemous now. However, the gurus work into that, then that's fine.
Uh-huh.
But I tend to be more of a shiksha person than a diksha person anyway. So.
Uh-huh. Nitya Radha, you haven't spoken a lot. Did you have something that you'd like to run by Dayananda Prabhu?
I think it's a wonderful landscape which Prabhuji has presented us. Because I joined late actually, so I didn't get more of the detail, but maybe his presentation sharing with us would be sufficing our intent. So is it possible to have that document or presentation with us?
Nitya Radha is in Pakistan, Dayananda Prabhu. I wanted to recommend that you please address her congregation there. There's how many? Several hundred, several thousand devotees? 10 centers?
Yeah.
I went one time to Islamabad. No, I'm sorry. Karachi.
Wow,
That's where she
nice
is.
city.
That's
Yeah.
where she is.
And I stayed it was 1982, I think. And at that time, Amogalila came. You know Amogalila?
Yes.
Yeah, he came, and we were there a little bit together. But I went to, because there was no temple, we stayed at a life member's house. And then every day we were eating at the Swaminarayan temple.
I live there actually.
Yes. Yeah. So we were taking prasadam. I went to one family. This one family invited us. They were, I don't want to say they were poor family, but they were not wealthy like the life member. Life member was wealthy where we were staying. So we went there, and they, you know, they had only 2 rooms. One room was for cooking, and another room was for living. Everything, living, eating, sleeping, everything. So simple people. So then they told me that, excuse me, they didn't know anything about devotees in the beginning, devotees from the West. So then the first devotee that they saw was first devotee who went to Pakistan was Brahmananda.
Yeah,
You know, you've heard of Brahmananda.
I heard about it.
Yeah, so he was the first devotee to go to Pakistan. So they saw him, they didn't think, you know, who is this? He's not devotee, he's just, you know, somehow not real devotee. So he came, I think, to their house. So they brought out Tulsi, and he paid obeisances to Tulsi. They said, okay, he's a devotee. Because they brought out Tulsi when we were there also. They brought out Tulsi, and we paid obeisances, and they told us that story.
How long you did stay there in that time period?
Not long, about maybe 1 month, I think, 1 month.
It's wonderful.
Because we were waiting for visas for India.
Sure.
I
Must
used,
be having, yeah.
I
sorry.
used to live in Iran for 3 years. I lived in Iran.
So you
Because
must be knowing Atriya Rishi Prabhu. Atriya Rishi Prabhu first came to Karachi, and he was also along with Amoglila Prabhu.
yes, Trey Rishi is, I'm very good friends with the Trey Rishi. I love him very much.
Yes.
Amogalila, I know him only from a distance. Anyway, I'm sorry, we're just talking all these sort of personal things. We're supposed to be speaking about Krishna instead of Karachi, huh?
Yeah, my humble request was to have that presentation if possible, because I have several questions or queries which I can contact you further.
Yes, I can speak. I like to have sort of interaction, discussion,
Yeah.
because I've noticed that on Zoom, it should, people like it if it's a little lively, if there's interaction.
Nitya Radha will translate for you. Malini Priti, are you allowed to have devotees do Zooms in Malaysia, or it's not allowed because of the Muslims?
No, Prabhu, we can do. There are classes that devotees do classes in Malaysia. The center that I go to, Sri Jagannath Mandir, Kuala Lumpur.
So if you want
We do have Zoom online.
if you want Dayananda Prabhu to do a presentation, then he may be available for that.
Yeah. Don't-
Actually, I
don't-
can speak to my
Don't get me involved in
my
too
uncle,
many
my
things.
father's.
I'm very focused on this my work. You know, I'm supposed to be writing 2 books, and so
Wow.
the thing is, Prabhu, because we have my Simeswar Prabhu, he's the regional secretary here, and he's in charge. We have a 400-acre farm here in Malaysia. So when you were telling about environment and cultural aspect and everything, and he was actually telling, because he was telling me that, he's actually my father's brother, and he was actually telling me that how he wants to connect farming to Sankirtan. So that's why I was trying to get the idea from you.
Whoa, wonderful.
So I was thinking, but I can ask him if he would like to have something for maybe in connection with the farm community or farm issues or farming. I can ask him and see if he likes to have a Zoom presentation. We have no such restrictions, Gora Prabhu. We can have a Zoom meeting. In fact, that's how Vaisheshika Prabhu had all the Zoom meetings with us on Sankirtan. He's there in the BBT page. You can speak to him.
I was working with Vaisheshika in New York also. I'm very fond of Vaisheshika.
Yeah, he fans the spark in everyone, I guess.
Oh yeah, very nice. See, I know everyone over 65. I know them all. Almost. I'm joking a little. Except Gora. Gora, who are you, by the way?
Mayor.
Gaurav Prabhu has, I think, not enabled his video for some reason.
But he can speak.
No, I'm here.
Why is your video off? Or
Must
you
maybe
don't
it's-
even know that your video is off? I think he doesn't know.
I had to turn off the pasta in the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah.
We haven't heard from Bhakta Marg Prabhuji as well.
Mark,
We
you have
didn't-
some thoughts? Would you like to
Yeah,
share?
Haribol. I took
Yeah.
some notes
Yeah.
with your new ideas, and I think
Yeah.
that recruiting young people is hard. It's hard now because what's going on in the world, and trying to piggyback on some of these movements is a good strategy to get on them. The situation here in Canada is basically that, Gore will know this, is that we are turning into an authoritarian communist country.
Fascist state.
We
Yeah.
are losing our democratic rights. They're going after Christianity under the COVID cloak. They're arresting preachers, arresting pastors. They're trying to destroy that. So Srila Prabhupada always had the message of, spiritual communism is good, but authoritarian communism is bad. And that's what we're facing right now. So I'm close to, so right now I'm in the freedom movement. So we're doing large gatherings every couple of weeks, hundreds of people there, sometimes thousands, to try and exercise our civil rights. That we don't agree with these COVID restrictions. We think they're overblown. The government is destroying people's livelihoods. They're basically taking all of our rights and throwing them all out the window. So I'm trying to think, when I'm in these freedom walks, is what we call them, when we have, hundreds of thousands of people, I'm thinking, how can I get these people to chant Hare Krishna instead of anti-government slogans? That would be the best way. So I'm trying to build your ideas here and how I can use that to my time, place, and circumstance. And, one thought I had was, Lord Chaitanya and his civil disobedience movement. So I need to really brush up on that and think about how that was accomplished when they tried to shut down his movement, and find the Krishna conscious freedom aspects in the way to present to the people who are going to these rallies. What's the freedom in Krishna consciousness, like Acyutananda, immortality, blissful living. So your 4 points, the vision of soul of all beings, I thought were really good. Srila Prabhupada starts a lot of his lectures with the vision of the soul, and the joy of austerity. That's something that somebody can tangibly feel from just controlling themselves. An agrarian economy is absolutely an urgent need right now. trying to transition into that because, where we're going, they won't even let you have a rental without wearing a mask through the hallways, without being vaccinated, without submitting to all different types of medical tyranny, which we find repulsive on so many levels. So this Leela-based culture of celebration, that is what we're doing. We are meeting weekly, every other week, protesting, saying the government has gone way further than they should have gone. They're destroying all types of people's livelihoods. So I'm trying to figure out how can I take some of these people, because these people would be, they're a flame that can be fanned. As far as these young people who are concerned with climate alarmism and COVID, and they like being persecuted by COVID restrictions and Black Lives Matter type of repressive, oppressive stuff. A lot of these kids are goners. There is, trying to pick one of them out of a crowd is going to be really difficult. But as far as the freedom walks that we're doing, I wish I could get these people chanting Hare Krishna instead of anti-government slogans. So I think you have good points there. So I need to start preaching them how survival mechanisms are embedded in Krishna consciousness. From all the great cooks, from all the people who taught us how to set up our kitchens, how to live peacefully together, how to start making agrarian type of lifestyle, being prepared for whatever's coming. Next, they say it's going to be food shortages coming. The preacher, he told me, he basically handed me out a survival guide in Berkeley 8 years ago with hints of Krishna consciousness, which was really good. What kind of pots you need, what kind of ladles, what kind of grains, where to get wholesale food supplies. All these very interesting tactics he was using because he could see this coming. How to protect yourself in the coming catastrophe that is on our doorstep. All the symptoms are there here in what's happening. So some takeaways I got from your class were, I really need to fan. I found a few young guys here, that I really need to fan more, who might be dedicated practitioners, who we can go to these rallies and we can chant Hare Krishna through these rallies while people are chanting their anti-government slogans, and give them kind of a transitional way how they can feel the bliss of the mantra at the same time and practice a little philosophy. So it would be going, and we're talking about now creating our own communities, bringing in our own economic strategies, having our own craft sales, stuff like that. So I'm going to have to set up a table with water, with books, with a picture of Srila Prabhupada and a big pot of halva, and just start giving that out, because the belly is the way to these people's minds, and they get a tasty treat like that with a little bit of philosophy. Then I think that's the turning point. And then I can start getting some of these people where my time, place, circumstance is to join this movement, understand and say, okay, these are solutions that we need before the government just takes us all out, before they make preaching completely illegal, before they arrest every single last pastor here. So a lot of these people who I'm dealing with are Christians, so being sympathetic to them is kind of how, that's my space, so, or get to Australia. That was a really good point. So that's what I got to say. Thank you for your presentation. I got some good points and some good ideas out of that, and how I can make that useful for where I am and what I'm experiencing here in Calgary.
I want to respond by saying, and I don't want to sort of, I want to say something that disagrees a little bit with some of your basic premises, but I don't want to say it in such a way that that says my way is the right way and your way is the wrong way. But I just want to say that along with this it has to do with Krishna consciousness and with the way I understand Prabhupada teaches, and also the way I understand environmental issues. It's that humanity has become very self-absorbed with itself, that we're extremely interested in civil rights, my rights, human rights, and humanitarianism. Politics plays a very important role in our lives, and I'm not very much in favor of any of these things. Being too heavily involved in politics or being too strongly moved by civil injustice or human injustice. When human beings are slaughtering in, let's say in North America, we slaughter about 2 billion animals every year. And then we worry all to hell about ourselves. We read in the newspaper or in the wherever news that some boy lost his life because his mother rolled up the windows and the car was overheated. I mean, that's a horrible thing. You know, people should be more responsible in the way they take care of their children. But we're a society that's more concerned with the life of one boy than with 2 billion animals. So I'm not very sympathetic with human rights or civil rights or individual rights or humanitarianism, because we've lost as a society, as a culture, we've lost our ability to sort of see outside of look outside of the box that we're in, this self-indulgent box that we're in. And Krishna consciousness is one of the things that enables us to see that Krishna or Vishnu or God controls and owns everything, that there are demigods that answer to Krishna, and the demigod, we are supposed to, in the normal circumstance, answer to the demigods. We have debts to the demigods, we have debts to our ancestors, and we can be relieved of those debts by worshiping Krishna directly. But so this sort of universal concept of who we are and who we are obligated to, in a way, we have no rights. People clamor for their rights, but really it's just the right to enjoy sense gratification. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on, but I'm just submitting these things as food for thought to you, because these are a little different from what you're doing. I'm not trying to, I don't want to dissuade you from what you're doing. You're doing wonderful service. You're thinking about Krishna when you're going on these marches and you want to introduce these people to prasadam. It's absolutely wonderful. But I just want to submit some of these ideas as kind of food for thought. That's all.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm starting from a base of people who are already God-centered people. These are people who go to church. These are people who are being persecuted for religiously worshiping God. They are shutting down their churches. They are locking down their buildings, putting their pastors in jail. So we are already together on a fabric built on spiritual communism instead of some medical tyranny coming down from the government that has basically destroyed all of our lives. So these people they're ready to be fanned. They're ready for the knowledge. They're ready to be free human beings to live their life. So thank you, but that wasn't a good, thank you for your answer, but it didn't do much.
I'd just like to make a quick response and say that back in the 80s, whenever there was, I mean, this is what I learned from my Sankirtan brothers and sisters, is that if there was a major rock concert, whether it was Lollapalooza, the Warped Tour, Woodstock, and more recently in the 80s, I remember there was like a major anti-abortion rally. So
Can
for
we
me,
see your face?
you cannot see my face? Oh, excuse me. All right. Okay. I didn't know. Okay, excuse me. Yeah. So I'm just saying, whenever there's major rallies, I would just see it. Great. Lord Chaitanya is pulling everyone together so I can give them prasadam and the holy name. So I remember in Queen's Park, which is right in the center of downtown Toronto. It was, I think, a cold, I don't know, cold weather, but anyway, I cooked up big pots of sabji and halva and brought tables, and I set them all up because I wanted people to see, oh, look, Hare Krishnas, they're with us. Also, of course, we're against abortion as well. However, I just wanted to contrast that view of when I could get a few devotees to come out with me to more recently when there were 10,000s of people marching in the streets of Montreal, and recently one in Toronto. And I called a young man, a devotee in his 20s, maybe early 30s, in both Montreal and in Toronto, saying, hey, let's go. Let's do a Nagar Sankirtan, like right through those thousands of people. And one of them, the one in Montreal, said, I just think everybody should just stay at home. And, you know, I didn't want to argue with him. I got the same response in Toronto. Just no, you know, it's nuts, it's crazy, just stay at home. I think also there's the fear of if we go out there, we're going to get infected by COVID, etc. So even though I love all your ideas, I just see how this COVID is throwing a curveball into everything where people, yeah, normally they are self-centered, but they're more self-centered than ever before because they're losing their jobs. I've heard that this village here of Erin, which is 4,500 people, they're planning for it to expand to 14,500 in the next 5 years. People, as Mike was saying, people are like they're leaving the cities. Or no, it was Shukla was saying, yeah, people are leaving the cities and they're going by the thousands out into the countryside. So I'm just observing all of this and I'm trying to figure out where I fit into all of this and what I can do. You know, I've gone out, I've done a one-man Harinam with a little book table and singing at the same time. And I don't feel I can really do much, but I realize I need to go on Harinam and book distribution for myself, because living in a little apartment surrounded by drunks and carnivores and stoned people, it's pretty depressing. So I need to go out to save myself. Otherwise, I have no human interaction. This is my human interaction right now with all of you, which I'm grateful for. But I'm just saying, I mean, you've lived longer than all of us, Dayananda, and surely you've not seen anything. This is unprecedented in your life, is it not?
No, it's not unprecedented. I was in Iran during the revolution. I don't think that, you know, these are just difficulties, you know.
Okay.
That's the way I take it, you know.
Okay.
It's if I were 125 years old, I would have lived through the what do you call it, the Spanish flu in 1918.
Right.
I mean, every year I have to endure the winter, you know, and sometimes it's cold in the winter. Or in India once, something that really affected me profoundly was that I was there during the riots after Indira Gandhi was killed, and they reacted by killing a lot of Sikhs because 2 of her Sikh bodyguards killed her. So I witnessed this guy getting killed in front of us. They beat him and burned him to death with
My God.
fire. So with gasoline. So, I mean, these kinds of things, to me, I just think it's the suffering that goes on in the world. Krishna says, Matra sparshas tukante shitoshna sukha agama payano nityas things tangs tiksha svabharata. For me, I just think it's the the one of the things that happens in life that causes suffering, and that it'll go away and then people will try to enjoy. They suffer a little bit, they have to stay inside. There's lots of frustration, anger. You're saying that people lose their jobs, they can't go to work. I mean, in Iran during the revolution, I could see that that's all people want to do. They just want to go to work. They want to come home to their family, enjoy their family. So as soon as that's interrupted, it causes people suffering. But it happens. It's just people.
You're
lose their
saying it's
jobs.
just another month in the material world, another year in the material world.
Yeah, and then we're in this huge thing called Kali Yuga. We have no concept. I mean, I think about it sometimes. We have no idea what it means to live outside of Kali Yuga. So we're in this huge, long winter, and there's going to be occasional. I mean, what about, like, sometimes in history we read about the 100 Years' War or something like that, you know, where it just goes on and on and on, and everybody knows somebody who was killed in the war, and it just like, and then there's a siege, and you know, what about living in a castle in medieval times when they siege the castle and they live for 100 years? I read once about was it Moscow or St. Petersburg when Hitler attacked Russia, then it got so bad that sometimes there was even cannibalism. People were eating. I don't know if that's true, if it was just propaganda or whatever, but people, you know, they go through hell sometimes. So COVID to me is just another sort of little period of suffering. That's the way I view it.
Uh-huh.
And all of the side effects, you know, the inconveniences to people that are side effects. Did you know anyway, never mind.
Go ahead.
I was going to say something.
Go ahead. Say it.
I was going to say something inappropriate. Okay, I do that often. I say inappropriate things. That I read after Prince Philip died, there was a lot of discussion about how he would say things that were off color, inappropriate, or they bordered on racist. So one of the things that he apparently said, because he was involved in a lot of environmental projects, you know.
World Wildlife Federation, yeah, WWF.
Yeah. So he said, well, after I die, he says, if I become reincarnated, I want to be reincarnated as a virus to help solve the overpopulation problem.
Oh God. What a weird thing to say. So what's your point about? Yeah.
So my point about that is that you know, he's probably the virus that they're now suffering in India. You know, the British seem to like India. I'm just being silly now. I don't.
That's okay. It's getting better. Every minute it's getting better. Yeah, so you have a vision, you're a visionary. And it doesn't sound like from what I can understand, what you're saying is that your vision, which is really Prabhupada's vision, it doesn't necessarily have to be done within the confines of the institution of ISKCON, that ISKCON is that your vision is inclusive of ISKCON, but not necessarily limited to ISKCON. Am I understanding correctly, or?
Well, now, okay, the short answer is yes, that's correct. But I don't want to get myself in trouble either.
Big brother is watching.
No, I mean, I don't want to burn bridges is what I meant.
I get it.
I don't mind getting in trouble. I can get in trouble, you know, that's okay. But but I don't want to burn bridges because I love all the people, you know, I love devotees, you know.
Yes,
and
of course.
don't-
Well, Radhanath Swami,
Can I speak?
I'll just 1 second, please, Krishna Prabhu. I'll just say quickly.
No problem.
Radhanath Swami said to me, he said it was really helpful for him and Chaupati to get kicked out of ISKCON for a while, you know, when Kirtanananda got ousted, because he said he was able to develop Chaupati in a way that he wanted to. He said otherwise, and, you know, with all due respect to our dedicated GBC godbrothers, but my personal experience in Eastern Canada is that sometimes they have undermined our godbrothers in serving in our temples. They've overstepped their boundaries as GBCs. And he said some GBCs could have come in and undermined his efforts, and thus he would not have been able to. So he said it was to his advantage to do some things outside of ISKCON, so that later, when he was being reinstituted back into ISKCON, things were the way he wanted to develop them. Just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know if Maharaj wanted me to call.
Yeah. Okay. Now, since you're getting all political, now that he's come in with his ideas and his ideas have become predominant, I feel like his ideas, some of his ideas predominate over my ideas. So now, should I go to Chopati or what should I do? No, it's a dilemma. We just have to go through our service, do our service, whatever Krishna wants, you know.
Yes.
And actually, I should be volunteering to wash the pots, but I'm too arrogant to do that.
Krishna Chandra Prabhu, you had a point you wanted to share.
I did, yeah. I think it's a little old, but you'd mentioned about what to do about COVID and Sankirtan, and I think it's a good idea to push the envelope a little bit to bring Sankirtan back. I mean, full force, but just to be just a little sensitive, because of course there are people who are very much afraid. We don't want to acquiesce to the narrative that, well, oh, this is dangerous and let's stay home and, you know, huddle indoors or something. But on the other hand, I think it's good to be just a little savvy and not alienate those who are legitimately afraid. And if we can find that sort of narrow, you know, balance and try to push the envelope, I think it would be it.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by pushing the envelope?
Like maybe go out, but maybe do a little bit of social distancing and not get too close together. I mean, just try to find something where people can't criticize too much. And I think that might be successful even now with the situation.
Ram Roy is going out every day. They're not skipping a beat. I don't think they're sitting 6 feet apart from each other.
Right. I mean, you know, I'm in Long Island, so I really don't see what's going on. So I probably there might be things going on, but I'm not privy to them. I'm not firsthand anyway.
Any last comments from anyone before we close? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Did you get out pretty much?
Thank you for inviting me, Gora. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're our father. You're my big brother. I would just pick your brain for an hour or two, just hearing about Prabhupada in you and your services. That's where I want to go personally. I know that's not where you want to go, but I'd love to have you back just to talk. I know, wouldn't everybody here just love to hear about Dayananda Prabhu's services and the times he was with Prabhupada? All in favor, say Jai.
Hi.
You're just
So,
forcing
basically,
everybody.
I
Gora.
want to say something. Gaura Prabhu involved me so much in all the technical things today. I couldn't even talk or attend it like 100%. So I really want you to come back again.
Yes, I agree. I think it's a good idea. We should blame Gora for things.
Dude, I need to become a little more humble, that's for sure.
excuse me, I have a tendency to say things that are not politically correct.
Oh, that's okay.
Of course, you know, I don't mean to say anything about Gora. You know, I'm saying that joking because like a younger brother, you know.
Yeah, I can
so.
take it. I can take it. I need it. Any kind of love I can get, I'll take. Doesn't matter what kind of form or shape it comes in. Anyway, yeah, so please consider coming back for another session. I don't know if you have a part 2 to this or not, Dayananda Prabhu.
Oh, there's 20 parts, but yeah, anyway, we'll see. I wanted to just give the little overview and get feedback and see where devotees are. And
I'll run it by everybody on the Wednesday session. And I know myself, I would just, I mean, Jayananda Prabhu's disappearance day is coming up. I would have loved just to hear about, I don't even know if Nitya even knows who Jayananda is. Do you know Nitya?
No idea.
He doesn't even know who he is. Do you want to say a couple of words about him before you go, Dayananda?
oh my God, it's getting so late for everyone. You know, I have no problem. Well, Jayananda was, he was heavily involved in the Rath Yatra carts. He built the first Rath Yatra carts. And also Prabhupada was very appreciative of him in the very early days. You know, the first temple was 1966 in New York. Then only 6 months later, Prabhupada came to San Francisco. It was then 1967. So Jayananda was one of the first people who joined there in San Francisco. And he had a job, and he was a few years older than the other devotees who joined. And a lot of the devotees were not very responsible. They were just 18, 19, 20, 21. They didn't know how to work or make money or anything. So Jayananda had $5,000 saved. So you have to multiply that by a 7 or 10. So let's say it's worth about $50,000 now. I don't know. So so he had $5,000, and Prabhupada wanted to print his books. So Jayananda was the first one who gave Prabhupada let's say, substantial amount of money to print his book. So he printed Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada printed that book. And that's what you're studying now, right?
Yes, he also thanks Jayananda at the beginning of Nectar of Devotion. I believe he also donated for that.
Yes, so Prabhupada was deeply appreciative of that. And then Jayananda was kind of, well, he was a little older, as I said, and he became a kind of a mentor to the younger devotees, in that he was a very practical person, and he could give guidance to young people. And he was, from practically the beginning, he was very much identified with the Rath Yatra festival. But he was just sort of a practical, what we call can-do person, and very much loved by all the devotees. And so he got cancer in about 1976. So he was about 35 years old, and he died then. He left before Prabhupada. And then when Prabhupada was informed, Prabhupada really praised him and said that his picture should be put on, for every Rath Yatra, his picture should be put on the cart. So as far as I know in the United States and Europe, they put his picture on the Rath Yatra cart as to honor him. And we also have one day where we celebrate his appearance day as a kind of saint of ISKCON.
One thing I
Is
learned
that
from
okay?
Thank you.
Jayananda Prabhu is how he used to get huge donations of boga. And he would, mangoes and bananas, and he would serve this out at the Rath Yatra. So I got this idea from him, and I used to go to the markets myself early in the morning on the weekends, and I just get tons of free boga for the temple. And then I would look for people to help cut up all the veggies. And I got a lot of boga donated because Jayananda Prabhu inspired me to do that seva. I was just really impressed. And I remember hearing one story by Kalakanta that someone was walking down the back alley, and Jayananda was taking a pitchfork, and he was throwing all the garbage into, I don't know if it was bags or into a truck or whatever. But he was singing away, and he was really blissful. And the devotee, I think his name was Chandanacharya. I never met him. But he said when he thought, wow, if the garbage man at the Krishna temple is so happy, I can't imagine what the rest of them are like. It described that Jayananda would be sometimes fixing a car underneath. He'd be working on the transmission or oil change or whatever. And he'd be preaching to people from under there. One thing he said was that so many people may come and so many people may leave Krishna consciousness, but you just have to go on chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And he would do incense runs, right? Spiritual sky incense runs. And wherever he would go, he would always keep a morning program going. And he loved the Krishna book. He was always reading that. These are just things I've read. Very loved by the devotees. Matter of fact,
very much loved.
Yes.
Very personable, and also people outside of ISKCON. He was just a very sort of down to earth, very sort of everyman kind of man, and people really liked him. They identified with him. They felt that they could talk with him, and he had this one quality that he did a lot of sort of practical work, like building the Rath carts and working on sort of physical projects. He was a mechanical engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So he would be working on something, and usually outside. So if people were walking by, he would just call them and ask them to come over and help, hey, can you hold this? Hey, can you do this? So he would just engage people to do things. And sometimes somebody would just walk over and spend 2 minutes, and sometimes people would walk over and be there the rest of their life.
I even heard that sometimes if it was necessary, he would get a case of beer for some of the people that were helping him.
Okay, now we're going too far.
Whatever was required to get the service done. Yeah, extraordinary God brother.
Yeah.
Tamal Krishna Maharaj was quoted as saying that Jayananda was the most advanced devotee in the entire Hare Krishna movement.
Small. Yeah, Jayananda. Okay, I'll tell one story about Jayananda. This is my favorite story. So I have to tell a little background that it was in Los Angeles, and we had moved the temple to Hollywood Boulevard, if you can imagine Hollywood. But we made a mistake, and we got a month-to-month lease, and they kicked us out. So we were basically on the street. We had to, and Prabhupada, just as we got kicked out, Prabhupada came. So we were there, a few Los Angeles devotees, not many, but then Prabhupada came, and what happened when Prabhupada came was that all the devotees from different temples, like in this case, San Francisco temple, came. So Tamal Krishna, Vishnu Jan, Jayananda, Shilavati, Madhuvisa, Sudama, all these devotees who became leaders in the ISKCON movement, they were all visiting. And so we had this big disaster, and we had no temple, and
Wow.
so we had to have programs with Prabhupada in different places every week. So finally, the brahmacharis, Tamal Krishna, Vishnu Jan, Jayananda, the other senior, all these brahmacharis, they found a permanent place to rent. And we started having programs there. So you can picture now this house, and there was a big room, big central room, not huge, but big enough. And there were probably 15 or 20, probably more like 20 devotees, brahmacharis, and other householders and brahmacharinis, and so all packed into this one room. And Prabhupada was sitting. We had a raised platform for Prabhupada, and he's sitting there. And the brahmacharis had all just shaved their heads. So all the brahmacharis had clean shaven heads, and they had new saffron cloth.
Enjoy.
So, and it was almost as if it was like preparation for a festival or something, but it wasn't really. It was just a class that Prabhupada was going to give. So he was there, and it was just before class, and there was no kirtan yet. After a minute, there would be kirtan, but devotees were all chanting japa. So very sweet environment. Prabhupada was sitting there. Everybody's chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And then, of course, Jayananda was always a couple of devotees, but Jayananda was always doing some work or something. So he stepped into the back door. So Prabhupada was sitting in the front, and he was looking over the top of the devotees' heads to the back. And Jayananda stepped in just opposite to Prabhupada. And Jayananda was rather tall. He was about 6'2" or something.
Yeah.
A little tall, and good-looking young man. And with shaven head and fresh saffron on. And Prabhupada said, "Oh, Jayananda, he looks just like Lord Chaitanya."
It's recorded. Yeah.
It's on a tape, actually, where he says that. Oh, and I'm telling you, so I was sitting there, and I looked at Jayananda. He was so embarrassed. He just couldn't stand it. He was so embarrassed. He turned 3 shades of red. He was so embarrassed.
Going back,
Jayananda, he
yes.
looks just like Lord Chaitanya.
yes.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said earlier about how much he was loved, Murli Krishna Prabhu, who worked with him on the carts in New York, he said that there was this, that Jayananda, when he would get the permits every year for Rath Yatra, he would bring some cakes or pies. And he would always bring one to this one lady who's in charge of the permits. It's a big black lady. And so the next year, a different devotee came to ask for the permit. And she asked, where's Johnny Ananda? Because that's how she called him, Johnny Ananda. Where's Johnny Ananda? And the devotee expressed, well, you know, he passed away. And she went, what? My Johnny Ananda. And she just started bawling and crying. And she was just like ripped apart. That's how much affection she had for a devotee. It's an amazing story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're very fortunate. You were with the best.
I am fortunate.
We're fortunate to know you.
I'm very fortunate.
Thank you for putting COVID in I don't know if I should say in a relative perspective or in an absolute perspective. Because you help to kind of like take a little of the, you kind of help to take the pin and prick the whole, you know, how things have been so inflated over this. And even devotees can become anxious also.
It's true. Devotees become distracted by things. When I was in Iran, they had the revolution, and by that time we had 3 brahmacharis, Iranian brahmacharis. So Atreya Rishi went to the U.S. He had to go to the U.S. for business. So I was in charge, and all of a sudden, the actual revolution only lasted about 3 or 4 days. There were riots and tanks in the streets and things like this. But then all of a sudden, they announced that every person who has a military card, because it was a mandatory military draft, everyone with the military card should come and get a rifle and overthrow the government.
Wow.
Take charge of all of the police stations and government army barracks and government offices. So it was basically an announcement for a popular uprising.
Wow.
So which worked, but we out of those 3 brahmacharis, one of them was had been in the military, so he was going to go, and the other 2 were going to go with him. So they went out. I said, no, you can't go. I mean, this is the politics. It's something else. You're devotees. You shouldn't go out. He said, no, we're Iranians. We have to go, but you stay there, Dayananda. You can't come with us. So
yes.
I realized that yes, even though we learn over and over again, we attend classes that we're spirit soul. We hear again and again and again, we're spirit soul. We're not this body. We're not American or Iranian or black or white. Still, we identify somehow. And then when the push comes to shove, then we again, unless we're on the Brahma Bhuta platform, the highest platform, we identify as the body. You know, we think, oh, I'm this body, and we're starting to die. We have cancer or whatever we have. One sannyasi, he had liver, like hepatitis C with the liver, and he went all over the world looking for a cure. I thought, why? I thought, yeah, I understand, and I hope that I hope it doesn't affect me so deeply. I know it probably will, but he was a wonderful sannyasi, you know, but finally he realized, okay, there's no cure. He went to Mayapur and he died in Mayapur, or he left his body. So I don't mean to be disrespectful, but
no.
I loved him very much, a wonderful friend. But then I observed, you know, that even the greatest among us, you know, gets affected by these things. So yeah, we are affected by our external surroundings. It's natural.
By the way, Krishna Chandra's family comes from Iran.
Actually, just my father. My mother's from Brooklyn.
Oh, really?
My parents worked for Pan Am in Tehran. That's how they met.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you don't speak any Persian, though, do you?
خیلی کم فارسی بلدم.
میتونم فارسی حرف بزنم ولی no mucho porque I was learning Spanish. It's Kati Pati shod. That's how I know how to say it, mixed up in Farsi. Kati Pati.
Wow.
See,
I've only been there once, 15
oh,
years
really?
ago. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It. Yeah.
Did you meet any devotees there?
I would have loved to. I really should have made the effort, because I know there's a Govindas over there, but I was just there to support my father, because my grandfather had just passed away, and that was, yeah. So I didn't know the language very well. I just didn't feel comfortable exploring very much.
Yeah, it's probably not a good idea to meet with devotees as a Westerner.
Yeah, right.
get them
True.
in
Yeah, I
trouble.
didn't want to like, I wouldn't want them to get in trouble for sure.
Yeah, I love meeting Iranians. Every so often I meet somebody and then I talk and try to revive my Persian. I
Right.
learned to speak pretty well there.
Can imagine.
It was an amazing experience. Wonderful, actually.
And
Yeah, my
Prabhupada,
mother always.
Prabhupada spent how much time there in Tehran?
Well, he visited twice. Yeah, not for very long, but he visited twice.
Mhm.
Did he have specific instructions for Tehran, for Iran?
Yeah, I mean, excuse me, not really anything profound that we should.
And the restaurant was there. We saw them.
No, just before we showed him the restaurant. Actually, the people were still living in the house. It was a house that we converted to a restaurant. That the people were still living there.
Oh,
Mhm.
I don't know if I don't think that the restaurant is in the same location that it was at that time.
Mm. I think they published a Persian cookbook, vegetarian, and I just bought it on Amazon. But I
Really?
want to make more masabzi, but I'm not a great cook, so I'm just
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I'm having trouble. I can't find fenugreek and other herbs.
but you can read it.
Oh, it's in English. I was shocked.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Oh.
they. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
Interesting.
all Indian food stores have fenugreek.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. That's what I should have done. It's like a half hour from me. I should just make the trek.
And you can also plant it and grow it. You can grow greens, fenugreek greens also.
Fenugreek is methi.
Métis, yeah.
Mm.
I mean,
Nice.
sometimes that's the way it's labeled by the Indians, although they do call it fenugreek also.
Uh-huh. Okay. I'll look that
I
up.
want to tell, since we're in the Middle East for a moment, I want to tell one quick story I heard from Padmapani. I don't know how far Beirut it was or is from Tehran. It's another country, right?
Oh yeah, it's Arabs.
Right,
Arabs and Persians are completely different.
Absolutely.
right.
They're the first time I met an Arab, he said, I was working and my boss introduced us. And he said, my boss was thinking, oh, he didn't know the difference. He said, oh, this guy can speak Persian. And then the Arab guy says, well, we have a saying, Arab va Ajam.
Which
He
means,
said, well, he described, he says, it means like black and white, American and Russian.
oh,
Right.
wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Padmapani told me that when Sri Bhuvanath said to him, hey, let's go and preach in Beirut, Sri Bhuvanath did not tell Padmapani that there was a war going on at the time.
Oh, no.
He said, let's go do some prasadam
Oh.
distribution and book distribution. So anyway, Ravanari Prabhu, he was working on completing the Bhagavad Gita, and he got it done during that time. And so Sri Bhuvanath called up a taxi to take him to the printers with the Bhagavad Gita to get it printed. But en route, a bomb went off or a mortar shell hit, and the taxi cab driver jumped out of the taxi and ran away. So Sri Bhuvanath just got in the front seat and he kept driving. And he drove to the printers and got the seva done. I just thought, wow, what a courageous devotee. That sounds like something out of a movie. Love it.
Yeah, we were a little crazy in those days. Tribhuvannath. I met him once when I was in Iran and he was going to Beirut. I met him in Mayapur. So I knew Tribhuvannath for several years before.
At Bhaktivedanta Manor?
I came to, no, in the very place. I came to London in 1971 and he was 18 years old. He was the temple president.
Yeah, he tells the story. Yeah.
So they kind of sent me to, as a kind of a replacement. I was temple treasurer, and then he suggested I just take over, and he went to Scotland. But anyway, so I knew him from those days, then I saw him in Mayapur, and I said, so how's it going? What are you doing? What's your service? You know, and he says, oh, I'm still going to Boom Boom Beirut.
Siddhanta Prabhu recorded Tribhumanath, and I don't know if it was Shamasundar or Mukunda that had to leave, and they left Tribhumanath in charge of the temple.
Both of them. Both
Okay.
of them left.
They both
Sham
left.
Sundar. So it was Sham Sundar Gurudas. So Sham Sundar and Malati, they went with Prabhupada to India.
Okay.
And then Gurudas and Yamuna also went to India with Prabhupada.
Okay.
And then Mukunda and Janaki went back to the US because Janaki had emotional problems.
Right.
So that's pretty well known that she couldn't live in the temple anymore. She just,
Okay.
so Mukunda went back to the US with her. So they put Tribhunath in charge. He was 18.
Yeah, and so he tells in Siddhanta's Prabhupada Memories, you've probably seen it. He hadn't seen his parents in, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it was, and they didn't know anything about their son. And then the BBC came just after Tribhunath was made president, and the BBC introduced him as the temple president of the leader of the Hare Krishna movement in the United Kingdom. And there they see their little son with his shaved up head, a Sikha on TV. And Tribhunath breaks into laughter. You know, his parents were like, their minds were just blown away. Their little boy, the leader of the Hare Krishna movement with his shaved head. Tilak. He must have been very dependable if at 18, I mean, there must have been very many qualified devotees there, but yet he was made president. Wow.
No, devotees, a lot of devotees joined when they were young and they needed guidance. They weren't necessarily capable of taking responsibility. Tribhunath was one of the most austere persons I've ever met. He's one of the, he would sometimes go, he wouldn't get any sleep. I mean, he was trying to live like one of the Goswamis or something. He would go, he would say, okay, it's late at night. He'd been working hard, serving all day. So it would be like, I don't know what time at night, 9 o'clock or something. So then he said, I need to go finish some rounds. So he would walk around the block, but sometimes he would be so tired and sleepy that he would lean on a lamppost and fall asleep on the lamppost. So then we would say, a couple of devotees would say, Tribhunath's been gone a long time, why don't you go out and see where he is? And one time he was on Kirtan in Scotland, and it was Kadashi, and he was fasting, and he fainted.
Wow.
And one time we were in a meeting. We were having this meeting in the sort of the leaders of the temple, and then almost in the middle of the meeting, he said, "I need to go take rest," and he just lay down and went to sleep. I mean, that's the way it was. I mean,
right in the meeting, you just laid down.
Right in the meeting, yeah. He said, I needed to take rest. It was just, yeah. I mean, we were having fun. Talk about austerity. I mean,
joy of austerity, yeah.
Yeah.
More joyful when you can do it with others.
Oh, yes. That's it, Yes.
He started the temple, was it in Edinburgh or Glasgow?
I think Edinburgh.
Uh-huh.
You have to ask for Scottish history. I have to ask Kishore.
Okay. Or Smarta Hari, maybe.
Yeah, Smarta Hari. He's a London guy, though. But Smarta Hari knows everything.
He's living in Vrindavan now.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Smarta. Yeah, he's one of the old guys that I know.
Yeah. He's very kind to me.
Yeah, I noticed that I agree with most of the things he says. And then every once in a while I'll read something that he posts and then I get surprised because I don't totally agree with it. So anyway, it's hard to see eye to eye on 100% of everything.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, all your points are legitimate. I guess I've just been so much absorbed in warning people about, taking preventative steps towards COVID instead of going for the vax, that I haven't considered much about environmentalism, not for the few months. I had a talk with Shalagram, and he spent about an hour talking to me, taking me back with a bunch of graphs, 150 million years, showing me that there's always been this up and down roller coaster effect of heating and cooling and heating and cooling. And I wasn't exactly sure where he was going with it. But the impression I got from him is that there's been, what shall I say, an overreaction to global warming. That it's not as extreme. And not to say that, slaughterhouses, etc., are not wreaking another kind of havoc. But I felt I needed to hear a lot more about it, because it seems
The
like,
thing is that
yes,
these it's a symptom. These symptoms are not so important. The point is, the way, as far as I'm concerned, the way to look at it in a Krishna conscious way is that modern society encourages overconsumption, and basically that's sense gratification.
right.
Modern, and it's a global culture. It's American culture, which is an outgrowth of European culture.
Mhm.
So this culture has spread all over the world, and it really encourages consumption and sense gratification. So we're consuming all of the earth's resources. And Krishna says that that's stealing, right? Yo
Mhm.
bhunkte stena eva saha.
Uh-huh.
So that means modern society is stealing. So what are we supposed to be doing? We're supposed to be doing yajna, right?
Yeah.
That's what Krishna says in the Gita. Right? That's
Karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartam karma konteya mukta sangha parambraje.
yeah. So yajna. So what's yajna? Sankirtan.
Yes, that's the sacrifice for Kali Yuga, the performance of Sankirtan. And
Sankirtan.
Prabhupada said, and the Brihat Mridanga is the printing press.
Yeah. So Sankirtan is the yajna that we do. And that's why I'm presenting the whole Vaishnava culture as a practical example. So I devised this idea that we can show practical, because people don't want to hear about spirituality and religion. It's almost a bad word to say religion and spirituality and God. Don't you agree?
Because it seems like almost anything is divisive in Kali Yuga, including discussions on religion and spirituality.
But I read that 70% of scientists are either agnostic or atheists.
Okay.
Now that's not shared by the entire society. There are a lot more people in the greater society who believe in God, but in general, you run across these educated liberal people, and they tend to be atheist or agnostic. God and religion and spirituality, and even much more so than in our youth. It's, when we were young, us old guys, we experienced a lot more sort of religious sentiment than exists today.
Right.
So my point is that let's present the Vaishnava culture. It's based on the Bhagavad Gita, it's based on religion, but it's a culture, and then it's a society, and then we can show that that culture and that society has a positive relationship with nature, and American society or modern global culture has a negative impact.
Yes.
Okay, compare the two. Okay, so now we've established that Vaishnava culture is good. American culture is bad. So what are the good aspects? What should we be taking from that culture? 4 things. Soul, joy of austerity, agrarian economy, and celebration of Leela.
Okay.
What celebration of Leela? Sankirtan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Jai.
So it's a hook for me. And again, I'm not being cynical, but stated in a kind of a cynical way. The environment is a hook. And I believe that
Right.
the concern for environment is not going to go away. There are going to be environmental disturbances caused by humans for a long time.
All through my little neighborhood of Erin, Ontario here, you see signs saying, stop the sewage plant, save our trout, stop the sprawl. Because I live in a couple of quaint villages here, Bell Fountain, very quaint, Erin, and we're seeing on the weekends masses of people, or like hundreds of people are lining up to get an ice cream cone at the local little ice cream shop. People like it out here in the country. They want to get away.
Yeah, they want to stop the pollution of the river because it's giving a problem with the trout. These are all the symptoms, okay? So in America, as soon as the air is bad or the water is bad or something like that, then there's going to be a reaction, okay?
Right.
But in reality, the Americans export their pollution.
Huh. Yeah.
So America, since the 50s and 60s, the manufacturing in America has gone down. It's no longer a manufacturing economy. Okay?
Yeah.
So where do they manufacture?
China.
Where's the pollution?
In China.
America exports pollution to China.
Right.
Because China manufactures the goods for America.
Right.
So America has successfully exported pollution.
Huh.
I think also slash and burn farming abroad as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one example. I mean, it's just, but so, global warming, maybe, it may or may not, like you said, Gora, there's some different arguments, but the point is that people get upset about things when it's right in front of their faces,
Yeah.
but really the point is, from the Krishna consciousness perspective, sense gratification and greed are always going to, produce a reaction. People want their sense gratification. They want to be greedy, and then they don't want the resulting karma.
Right. They want, as Prabhupada quoted the Archbishop of Canterbury, they want the kingdom of God, but without God.
But without God.
Fool's paradise. Fool's paradise.
Yeah. And another time Prabhupada was talking about the men, the men who they start a factory and created an inhuman situation, you know, meaning like the factory workers, they have to work hard. And
Factory's a name for hell.
yeah.
Yes.
So they create a factory, and then what do the men do that are rich, that create the factory? They move out to the country and they
Nice.
enjoy the nice,
Yeah.
you know, gardens and
Yes.
everything, you know, big house, mansion, you know, so they don't suffer, you know, around the factory. So that's like the US, you know, in the US, they don't, people in the US, they don't want to suffer like Africa or some other place, that China, or, you know, they make a big deal, you know, and oh, Apple Corporation is making children work in China or Indonesia. It's a big outrage, you know, these. But what's the whole underlying? The underlying thing is sense gratification.
Right. I watched a movie called The High Cost of Low Prices, and it was a whole expose on Walmart and how they have all these people living in Walmart apartment buildings like chickens in cages and paid next to nothing and no benefits. But we support that.
Yeah, but the higher cost, you see, that's why I'm against humanitarianism. That's why I'm against human rights and civil rights, because the higher cost that's being paid is to the environment. I mean, not that that's not being paid. The higher cost is to the environment. So we're all concerned about the humans. Oh, this human is not making $10 an hour. This human is not making $15 an hour. The rich people are exploiting. Well, we're all exploiting nature.
Yeah.
Every single one of us is exploiting nature and ruining the planet because of sense gratification. And then we're all concerned about, oh, my fellow American.
My fellow exploiters.
Yeah, because sense gratification. We want sense gratification. We
Srila,
don't look.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj uses that expression that we are of the land of dedication, not the land of exploitation.
Yeah, service.
Right.
Even Gandhi says, I mean, he was Vaishnava, but he had his own ideas, his own interpretations. But he says also, he's talking about kind of an environmentally friendly community. So he says yajna should be at the center. And he said yajna is born along with karma, which is really our philosophy. That we have karma and we have yajna.
Yeah.
So karma is what we suffer or enjoy. And yajna is the means to transcend our karma.
Right.
And then he also defines yajna as being servitors. We are all debtors. We are indebted. We are in debt to the universe, which is basically Prabhupada preached like that. We have a debt to the demigods. We have a debt to the ancestors, and we repay those debts by serving Krishna.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I like Gandhi. I think that, as not philosophically, but I mean his ideas for environment
Prabhupada said
and
he was
simple living.
a saint amongst politicians and a politician amongst saints.
Yeah.
But isn't that where Prabhupada got his saying, simple living and higher thinking, from Gandhi?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay.
But this idea of Vaishnava culture really is also another way of saying Varnashram. I mean, in my experience, Prabhupada really liked Vaishnava culture. He would say things, as soon as he started talking about Vaishnava culture, he would, one of the stories he would tell would be about his uncle owned and maybe you've heard this story, his uncle owned a cloth shop.
Right.
And he kept a bowl of rice in the
Right.
middle of the shop, and the rats would eat the rice.
Right.
And it was kind of an agreement between the rats and his uncle that they wouldn't eat
Because he left a bowl of grains for them.
instead of eating the cloth.
Right. So what's your point about that? What's the connection?
My point is that, and it was Prabhupada's point also, that it's a culture that's meant to harmonize with nature, not.
Well, it's all inclusive.
You
Everyone
don't kill the rats. You
Right.
feed them rice. You know, there's another way. There's another way to do it. You know, that you don't. Just like Americans, that's all Americans think about is killing.
You're talking about a win-win solution.
There's no win-wins. I'm not talking about that.
No, but in other words, you're not saying that if I'm going to survive, you have to die. You know, if I'm going to win, you have to lose. If I'm going to win, the rats must die. No, you're saying, no, we can peacefully coexist. It's
Yeah.
inclusive.
Yeah, of course. You know, I mean, well, there's the issue of the tigers, but anyway. There's always something, you know, something is always eating something, but anyway. But yeah, I mean, that's the first inclination is in the West or in this modern culture is killing and exploiting and now we've got this idea that's the sort of what I don't like is the sort of socialist idea that really is sympathetic with all humans, you know, that we really have to take care of our fellow person, and if they're really downtrodden, we have to take care of them, but we ignore everything else, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, this person has it so bad, you know, and all the homeless people in Los Angeles, they have it so bad, and then we're killing 2 billion animals and eliminating the bees and
Right.
you know, overusing the land
Yeah.
and getting infatuated with iPhones, and you know, it's just sense gratification, you know.
Mhm. It's a big addiction. Goes very deep.
Goes very deep, but it's our business to try to combat, you know.
Say no to sense gratification. Say
Well,
yes.
that's the joy of austerity, but
Say yes to Nama Lila.
yeah. Anyway, so very late. It's very late.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so much. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope it was
Nice.
okay. I hope it was all right for you.
Yeah, fine. Nice to meet you, Krishna Chandra. I'm always I'm like, that's my bodily consciousness. I'm always happy to meet an Iranian, even a half Iranian.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
No, I'm telling you, I learned a lot in Iran. You know, I learned a lot about presenting Krishna consciousness also. We had to be careful. We had to be aware of what we're doing and what we're saying. And
Right.
it really made us think about everything. So
Yeah.
it was a great lesson.
And you saw the Vedic roots of Iran while you were there too, I bet. Iran.
Yeah, I love the people. You know, the Iranian people, the ancient Iranian, well, you know, the Aryans were they call them Indo-Iranians.
Right.
Indo-Iranians are the Aryans. That's who the Aryans are. That's why the Shah decided to change the name to Iran.
Yeah.
So because Iran and Aryan, they're a similar name. I mean, you know, not to get any Nazi ideas or anything. That's different, you know.
Right.
No, the word Aryan means cultured. It means, you know, somebody like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you know, in the, what is that?
Anarya Drishtamasvargyam.
Anarya Drishtamasvargyam.
One who knows the higher principles of life.
Yeah, Aryan. And that Zoroastrian, that ancient
Right.
Persian it's very close to Sanskrit, and
Yeah.
there's just in general the culture is very close to Vedic culture. And Prabhupada once said that Kashyapa had his ashram on the Caspian Sea.
Oh, wow. Mhm.
And Gandhari, you know Gandhari, the
Wife of Dhritarashtra.
wife of Dhritarashtra, she was from Kandahar.
Yeah.
Oh,
So Afghanistan, Iran, all those, you know, very close. You know, they're the civilization,
yeah,
culture.
that's
It's all,
something that they
all
really
part
want to-
of Bharatavarsha, right? At one time. Bharat.
Yeah. When Prabhupada, we went to see the restaurant, Atreya was just in negotiation to buy it. I think he finished negotiation. So we went to see, and the people were there and they spoke French. For some reason, my previous generation before me, those older people, they knew French
Right.
more than English. So they couldn't speak any English, but anyway, so of course, you know, devotees, Atreya and others, they spoke Persian. So we went to see them, and Prabhupada was there with us. So they had us sit down, and in Iran, you know, you have to greet a guest nicely. You have to bring them food.
Yes.
So they brought nuts and dried fruits and cucumbers. You know,
Right.
cucumbers are always part of the.
Yeah.
So they brought them out, and Prabhupada ate them. You know, he had some. So because it's, you know, not cooked, it wasn't cooked food.
Right.
So then afterwards, Prabhupada said, see, they're very cultured. The Persian people are very cultured.
They have Vedic culture.
Interesting.
He appreciated their hospitality. Yeah.
I appreciate you telling me about that. That's very intriguing to
Yeah.
me. Mm.
Oh yeah. There's another story I can't tell now, but it's too long. But
Right.
I think I had one of the best experiences of my life with this man who became a mullah.
Oh.
Shahrukh.
Mm.
Anyway, if we ever meet again, I'd love to tell you that story.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
You have to remind me.
Yeah.
It's
the face of the Shah. I think that's what his name means.
for me. Shah Rukh. Yeah, Rukh means face. Oh, so you know.
Yeah. I studied in university, but
خوب فارسی میتونی حرف بزنی.
خیلی کم حرفا بلدم.
حرف بلدم? I don't think that's.
Harf, I know very few words. That's what I was trying to say.
No, حرف بلدم means حرف میتونم, right?
Oh, right. Baladam, that's speaking. Yeah, I meant Midzanem. I know. To know. Donistan.
No, it doesn't matter.
I think it's getting a little late for me.
I'm just giving you a hard time, that's all.
You
No
studied
problem.
you studied Sanskrit, Dayananda Prabhu.
Yeah, a little. Anyway, it's very late. Yeah, I'd love to tell you that story about Shahrukh. I should have told you half an hour ago. It's really it's a very sweet story. I'll tell you
Be
sometime.
continued next time, okay?
Yes.
Okay,
no
Gora,
problem.
and you're yawning and I'm tired, and so
Okay.
I'm gonna collapse after this.
No problem.
Thank you so much for your association. Vanchakalpatrubhyas cha.
Mancha kalpatrubhyasta kupasinubhyeva titana pavanebhyo
Srila
vaishnavebhyo
Prabhupada
namo
ki jai.
Jai Prabhupada.
Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Jai.
Jai.